with a shock much greater than any vision had allowed, he did stand there. This project is on the fantastic, and the novel example we're going to be using will be Henry James's The Turn of the Screw. But the part of which I'm going to speak about at the moment is a part of the fantastic known as the uncanny. First I'll speak a little about the fantastic itself. Fantastic is when you have a story that is written in such a way it leaves the reader with no clear conclusion of what has happened, or no consistent explanation for the strangeness that has occurred during the story. This is known as the fantastic. This is a model I made to help understand what the fantastic is. There are two areas of it. There is the uncanny itself, and the other section, which will be talked about later, is the marvellous. The fantastic is represented by this line in the middle. The line between the uncanny and marvellous is that thin. They go into each other, as you can see, because you have the fantastic uncanny and the fantastic marvellous, which is when they're basically near enough merging. And this model I took from Todorov's The Fantastic. It's a basic model and it helped me a lot understanding it. And of course, for me, I shall be talking, as I said earlier, I shall be talking about the uncanny. According to Freud, in his essay on the uncanny, which is simply titled The Uncanny is that class of the frightening which leads back to what is known of old and familiar. This is the key point of his argument. He uses a novel by E.T.A. Hoffmann known as The Sandman as an example, where the little boy is basically told that if he doesn't go to bed when he's told, the Sandman will come and take his eyes, and he used to sneak into his father's office when he had a visitor there with him, and his father is ultimately murdered, and because of these actions the little boy comes to associate the visitor with the Sandman himself. And this man keeps turning up through his life throughout the story, and it ultimately drives the protagonist mad. And Freud basically argues that it's this familiar person that keeps turning up that is associated with this eeriness which makes it so uncanny. And linking this to The Turn of the Screw, it could be said that Freud's statement works here as well, because the governess is trying to look after two young children, which should be a good enough job for a woman of that era. Supposed to be looking up to children as the governess, so it would be a comfortable environment for her. But it ultimately gets twisted, and she begins to see ghosts, and the situation is, you can only call it uncanny. She even begins to believe that the children are linked with these ghosts, like they're trying to do something, and their behaviour doesn't help. According to how this works, the phenomenon in The Turn of the Screw could be explained by saying that merely the governess's problems are due to pressures of a new job, and the behaviour of the children surely didn't help, sneaking out in the middle of the night, running away, all sorts of things. But if this is so, when she describes the male ghost, which we find out is Peter Quinn, but at this time she doesn't know he's a ghost, she just thinks he's a weird man. When she describes him to the housekeeper, the housekeeper just simply automatically says, "Oh, well, that's Mr. Quinn and he's died." Well, if she's never met Mr. Quinn, how could she describe him quite so well? And for me, that is what makes the story fantastic.
In strict contrast to the fantastic, the marvellous allows for the existence or occurrence of the supernatural events without any fear. The stuff of legend or folklore, and of fables and fairy tales, the marvellous often employs seduction and humour to get the effects. Traits which are frequently absent from the fantastic. Todorov suggests that there are three types of marvellous. The hyperbolic marvellous, which is supernatural by dimensions, as Alice in Wonderland, when she changes size by drinking out of the bottle. The exotic marvellous, supernatural events which are reported without being anything special, like Superman and Batman, flying around in their weird costumes without being noticed. And the instrumental marvellous, where gadgets that you don't actually have in that period are normal features, like Fred Flintstone when he gets into his car, puts his feet through the bottom and runs off. You could say that in Turn of the Screw the marvellous occurs near the end of the novella, when the governess is more annoyed at seeing Miss Jessel talking to Flora than frightened as she was at the beginning. A quick poll of the English lecturers and scholars turned out to be rather fantastic. All agreed that Henry James wrote the book to leave the reader thinking. Sarah, with her uncanny lateral logic, suggested that it was the governess' repressed passion that caused the hauntings, while Albinder found the perfect sentence suggesting that Henry James, as the writer, was deliberately turning the screw.